talk about quadrilaterals that are inscribed in a circle. This word inscribed means that the quadrilateral is inside of the circle and that all four of its vertexes or vertices actually lie on the circle. Quadrilaterals that are inscribed in a circle have a special property, and that property is that their opposite angles are supplementary. In other words, angle A and angle C equal 180, and the measure of angle B and the measure of angle D also equal 180. So let's try to figure out why this is true. All right, so if I look at the measure of angle A, we just got finished talking about inscribed angles. Well, angle A actually is an inscribed angle, and if I look at the arc that it intercepts, or the intercepted arc, it goes from B through C over to D. So if you remember from intercepted or inscribed arcs, that would mean that the measure of angle A equals half of the measure of arc BCD. Okay? Now let's look at C. If I look at C, which is directly across from A, it's opposite A, let's look at the arc that it intercepts. So it is also an inscribed angle, and if I look at the arc that is intercepted by it, that would go from, let's see, B to A to D. So it would be that arc. So we could also say, remember from inscribed angles, the angle equals half of the arc that it intercepts. So the measure of angle C equals 1/2 the measure of BAD, that arc. All right. Now, what do we also know about BAD, this green arc, and BCD, the pink arc? Well, they form the entire circle. That means that if I add the two arcs together, they have to equal 360 degrees because there's 360 degrees in a circle. So if I take BCD and I add that to BAD, my two arcs, okay, I could say my green arc and my pink arc. I think I got those backwards, but that's okay. The two arcs added together equal 360 degrees. All right? Now, if I take all of this entire equation, and let's say I divide the whole thing by 2. If I divide it by 2, well, now I have 1/2 of BCD plus 1/2 of BAD, and that would equal half of 360, which is 180. Okay, so see, the only thing I did from this step to this step is I divided everything by 2. Now, this gets us right back to where we were to begin with. If I look right here, the measure of angle A equals 1/2 the measure of BCD. So I could substitute that in. I could substitute the measure of angle A, and if I look at what I have over here, the measure of C equals 1/2 the measure of BAD. So if I can substitute that in right there. And that equals 180 degrees, which is exactly where I started with up here. And that goes back to your inscribed angles and the fact that a circle always adds up to 180, or I'm sorry, 360 degrees. It'll always be true. So now let's look at a couple of problems that you have to use this principle to solve. Okay, so let's look at this first one that I drew right here. If I look at this one, it looks like I have to find x and I have to find y, and I have an inscribed quadrilateral. So if I look at this 80, this angle right here, well, it is opposite my x. So I know that the opposite angles in my inscribed quadrilateral are supplementary, so they add up to 180. So 80 plus my x has to equal 180, which means x has to equal 100 degrees. That's easy enough. Now let's look at my other two. I have y and I have 71. So the same principle goes here. 71 plus y are supplementary, so they have to equal 180 degrees. So if I subtract 71 from y, what do I get? I get 109. So that one is solved. Easy enough, right? Now let's look at some that are a little bit more complicated. Let's look at the one on the left. If I look at the one on the left, I can see that I need to find three variables. I need to find x, I need to find z, and I need to find y. And what they gave me was this angle right here is 93, and they gave me the measure of this arc right here is 58, and they gave me the measure of this arc over here is 106. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to first find z, because I know that 93 and z are supplementary because they're opposite angles, so that would be the easiest one to find to begin with. So I'm going to take 93 plus my z, and that's going to equal 180. So I'm going to take my calculator, and 180 minus 93 is going to give me 87. So z equals 87. Okay, so that's one piece of my puzzle right there, 87 degrees. Okay, now let's look at x. All right, if I look at x, I'm going to highlight the angle created by x. It goes all the way from here, all the way over there. All right, and I did that because I want you to see that the arc that it intercepts is this 58, which is the blue, plus the green arc, which is the 106. See how the orange angle intercepts that one big arc, the blue and the green put together? So if I want to know x, all I have to do is add those two numbers together. So the measure of angle x is going to be, oh wait, the measure of angle x is an inscribed angle, so it is half of that arc. So it's going to be 58 plus the 106 divided by 2, because it's half of it. So I'm going to take my calculator, and I want to take, let's see, 58 plus 106 equals 164, but I need to divide that by 2, so I get 82. So x equals 82. Okay, so that's the second piece of my puzzle, 82 degrees. Now that I know that x is 82, well, look at what is directly opposite of x, my y angle. So once I know x, I can figure out y, because those are opposite angles, and opposite angles are supplementary. So one last step, all we have to do is say 82 plus my y equals 180 degrees. And if I take 82, or I'm sorry, 180 and subtract 82 from it, I get 98 degrees. And I have solved my quadrilateral. Okay, now let's look at this one. This one's a little bit more complicated. And I'm probably not going to walk you through the whole thing, but I'll explain to you how to do it. Okay, the first thing we need to know is that this angle right here and this angle right here are supplementary. So if you noticed, what I did first was I set those two equal to 180. The 7x plus 1 plus the 105 equals 180. And then all you have to do is do the math to solve it. So that would be 7x plus 106 equals 180. So 7x, if I subtract 106 from 180, I get 74. And if I divide that by 7, that's not right. That should be, wait. 180 minus 106 equals 74 divided by 7. That's something's wrong there. Maybe I wrote that down wrong. It comes out to about 10.6. And over here, since I know that these two are also supplementary, I should be able to add them together. So 4y plus 14 plus 7y plus 1 equals 180. And then just combine your like terms and solve for y there. And so that would be what, 11y plus 15 equals 180. So 11y is going to equal 165. And that's not going to go in there evenly either. Oh, yes, it will. So y equals 15. Okay? And that's how you solve a problem like that.